Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. I hope that you are having a fabulous Tuesday. As you know, this is just Tuesday. Wednesday's hump day, but it's just Tuesday. So wherever you are, I hope you got a smile on your face. Things are going your way. And if not, if the sun's there, take a little sun, rub it on your face. You'll feel better. We'll feel better. Again, welcome to the Shout Out Show, the platform, the host, where I'm the host. I'm the host with the most, but I am not the host that owns the platform. This is a people's platform, which means that I value your opinion. The only opinions I don't value are the ones we don't hear from. So I'm going to encourage everybody to get into the comment section. Speak your piece. Yesterday, we were very vocal about what we were talking about. Speak your piece, get in the comment section, and most importantly, get yourself a shout out. Don't be shy. I tell people, don't be shy when you have things that you are compassionate, that you are passionate about, things that trouble your soul, things that you want to share. This is the platform to do it. So get in the comment section. So if you're new to the platform, hey everybody, this is a shout out show as I reiterated earlier. So listen, this is what you can do outside of subscription, notification, and like buttons, all that type of stuff. If you feel something, an idea that moves you, if you will, make sure you get in the comment section and let us know. And as a bonus for coming on the show today, guess what? We're going to make you part of one of the most eclectic groups here on live streaming and podcasts. They are the Shout Out Show family. So without further ado, let me introduce our Shout Out Show family, and we're gonna make you an honorary one. But you got to be in the comment section. You got to contribute to be a part of the show, And I don't mean you have to actually talk about topics, if you will. You could actually say something nice. You can give a salam. You can say hello, everybody. Have a blessed day. Things like that. Kindness counts. So we're gonna get in our comment section early today because you brothers got to make a run. What's going on, Ajia Kirk Abdullah? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A belated Eid Mubarak to you, my sister. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that Eid treated you well. Your family took care of you. You're back on the regular eating cycle. And I just want to tell you, thank you so much for joining our platform. We're always happy when we get people on here. But, I see you on Facebook, and you know how we get down. So let me just throw out, thank you for coming on the platform. I appreciate you. Kareem to you too. All right. Next up, we got my main man Adam Khan. Adam, he is he's the slow roller, the OG from Canada, brothers and sisters. My main man, my island partner in crime, Adam Khan. Hey, Adam, thank you for coming on the show. I think this is a topic I believe you might like today. I kind of chose and I had you in mind when I started speaking about it and writing down some of my notes. So I'm actually, people, when you come to the show, what I do is I kind of give a little bit of an epilogue at the beginning, a little I want to say, what's the word now? A little monologue at the front, and then we talk about the topic throughout the show. So, Adam, big shout out to you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother. Good to see you on the platform. Next up, my main man, Altaf Rashid. No knock, Adam, but Altaf is the official Canadian ambassador to the Shout Out Show. Well, big up, brother. Thank you so much for coming. Peace and blessings be upon you too and your family and your family's family. We thank you for coming on the show so much. I appreciate some of the comments that you said yesterday. I actually went back after the show was over and read some of what you said, man. It had some good thought-provoking stuff. And we're going to be getting into some more thought-provoking stuff. But it's not controversial. I say it's controversial when people is fighting over it. Sometimes common sense leaps over. It leaps over controversy. Controversy has to fight its way through common sense. A lot of times it doesn't make it. Common sense is where we're going to be today. Next up, Sister Rabina, where have you been? Eid Mubarak, my sister. Glad you came on the show. I hope you've been well. I hope your family's been well. I hope you had a beautiful Ramadan and an excellent Eid. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. We know that it's not easy for you because you're over in the UK and you're getting in on the Shout Out Show normally when I would have been in bed an hour ago. God bless you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We've missed you. All right, next up. It's Sultana Whitfield, our consultant producer. Like I said, without Sultana, who is a large part of the secret sauce of the Shout Out Show, the show doesn't happen. The show doesn't happen. We've had small incremental improvements, larger improvements, and she's been a part of all of those, brothers and sisters. And part of what makes the show work is people have a willingness to contribute to the show. I just gave Sister Rabina some shout out, some love. because she does send stuff to me through Instagram, and things to look at, things to think about. Not necessarily everything I would agree with, not actually everything that I'm pursuing, I'm thinking about. But it's nice when people put something on your mind that makes an imprint, and you find it as you ruminate through these ideas that it has value, and a lot of times they find their way on the show. So something that Sister Rabina actually sent me, I think about 7 months ago, regarding protests, is something that came up. Obviously, we're in a situation, scenario where we have conflict in the world. We have conflict in the world. One is a health conflict, and of course, one is, um, you know, I, I don't even say a generational clash. This has been happening generation over generation over generation. We're talking about, again, we're back at it, the Israeli Palestine conflict going on in Gaza. Okay, let's start the thing. My question has always been about response. I'm going to highlight, probably on that Saturday spotlight, an artist that was really, really important. He just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. His name is Gil Scott Heron. And if you have time, you need to go look at Gil Scott Heron. You hear what I'm saying? You need to research Gil Scott Heron. He was like one of the original OGs of rap, the last poets. He came out with a song, a great song. They used it in a Nike commercial. I hated that they used it. But the song was called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Again, that's the name of it. It's called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. I would play it for you, but 9 times out of 10, YouTube and Facebook are going to flag it for not having the license to use it. But he put something in my spirit when we talk about protests. And so I'm going to ask the question today. So do protests really work in terms of really, really, really achieving social justice? We're in fights for fairness. Okay, we're in fights for fairness. We're in fights for equity. We deal with fairness and equity in this situation. I'm gonna give a shout out to Miss Mary Moss. I just saw a comment from her. And I'm gonna get to that. My mother is throwing up some stuff because she came up in the civil rights era. And it's not to shout my mom out. This is any black mom, my mom's age. When they were born, they had a period of years into their early adulthood where they saw that they didn't have laws that actually work for African American existence, success, or excellence. They didn't have that. What you were subjugated to was the laws of the federal courts and the laws of the state courts and state municipality in terms of how they dealt with you. The laws that they dealt with were laws that were meant to make sure that you could keep your Negroes in their place. You could keep your Negroes in a place that you would spawn a group of good Negroes and good Negras who knew their place in society. And their place in society was serving white supremacy or being afraid of white supremacy or being manipulated and oppressed by white supremacy. That was the goal. We have a different culture now. We have a very different culture now. Because a lot of what was achieved with the civil rights era happens long before the advent of being able to have the cruelty and the cruelty and the criminality of white supremacy broadcast all over. See, in those times in the early 50s, in the late 50s, and the 60s, King and them realized that, the idea of Jim Crow and segregation is that people become really, really comfortable with that happening in the dark, with that happening in back alleys, with that happening with the complicity, if you will, of media and the people who owned media. The other thing was, brothers and sisters, it also happened with the fact that people thought that no one else saw it. No one else saw it. Oh, he said this happened. Nobody else saw it. I'm old enough to remember Rodney King. Nobody believed that police brutality really happened like those black people complained. Then you saw the Rodney King beating. And you saw him get whipped and whipped and whipped and whipped. And at the same time, they moved those cops out of that area to Simi Valley, where there were no black jurors. So they didn't have a jury of their peers. And they were basically exonerated for what they did. They had a retrial. Da, da, da. Now, what happened during that point in time is you really didn't get protests. You got the LA riots, brothers and sisters. You got the LA riots. And this is not to sit here and poo-poo people who have I'm talking about sincere compassion and wherewithal of mercy to, of course, the hearts go out to Palestine. My heart goes out to anybody who's oppressed, whether it's Palestine or whether it's a person that's homeless on the street or whether it's a kid who can't read. That type of oppression registers with me. But here's the deal. It's a difference about reaction. Gil Scott Heron told me a long time ago, he said, one of the problems now is we have a bunch of people, when they see something, they are reactionary. He said, we don't have any more revolutionaries. Why? Revolutionaries usually wind up dead. And I thought about that because for the last cycle, going back into the pandemic, we see more and more and more culture of reactionaries, not people that are coming up with revolutionary ideas to deal with this situation. Like you had something about the BDS dealing with Palestine, boycott, I think divest. I can't remember what the S is. Forgive me. I should know. But my point is, it was a revolutionary idea. And I know it was revolutionary. It was a revolutionary idea by virtue of the fact that so many people rallied to kill it. So many people rallied to kill it. Nobody rallied for it to pass. People rallied for it to kill it. And there were no protests for the BDS platform to be taken to in Congress and emphasized. Now, this is a really important point. And please put your comments in the comment section, because I'm going to throw this out. I understand the issue through history and connection to my parents and my grandparents and my aunt and people like that, people who were raised in Jim Crow, that they understood that the protest underlined the threat. The protest underlined the threat. The protest says, here are the people that can do X, Y, and Z. Let me explain. If I have 500,000 people and they show up and they rally, but nobody says, I have 500,000 people prepared to do step 1, step 2, step 3, then you really don't have power with that protest. You really don't have power with that protest. To even give a better reaction, when I was in college and we were protesting against apartheid, if you will, we had rallies, but at some point in time, we had a caucus. It said, do these rallies really happen? And one of the reasons I'm saying that because the rallies became a place, it became a social meetup place where everybody got together, they rallied, and then they went to the bars. They went to the bars or they did whatever they did, but it was a rally. It was a social event. It's not a social justice event. You know, when you do and you pull out the sheets on the bed of planning with I want to say definitely civil rights movement, even with the black religious movements. Black religious movements always had something that scared people, something that made people think. It didn't necessarily even have to be a threat. It's just the idea that people thought that you were thinking differently. It gave you pause. It gave you pause. Like we have these protests, but they're more like social gatherings. They are, announced days in advance. So there's no spontaneity. So people know when you're coming. And we began to see this at the end of George Floyd. You had all these protests, but then the protests started losing steam because there was just so many of them. It looked like window dressing, but nobody was willing to take a cloth, wrap around the hand, and break the window. And protests don't necessarily, brothers and sisters, underline purpose. They don't necessarily underline purpose. It may point you to it, but it doesn't necessarily move you to that. You had things like what was the Arab Spring? What was it that fired off the Arab Spring? What was it that fired off the Arab Spring? It was a man who's extremely distressed at how his country treated him, and he set himself on fire. Now, I'm not advocating anybody set themselves on fire, but the extremity, the extreme nature of what he was feeling as an emotion, as a citizen, as a human being, as a citizen of the world, people stopped. And that thing emoted all kinds of emotions from people. You know, years ago when I was in high school, we had a situation where one of our fellow students got jumped by a neighboring high school. Now, this happens all the time, but this guy was special. It was different. It was different because this guy, he wouldn't hurt a fly. He was just a sweet guy. You know, we may call him a nerd or a geek, but he was our geek and he was our nerd. And we may joke about, oh, you don't have a girlfriend, your glasses, da da da, you know. But to a man, we respected him, and he was a sweet guy. And he got violated. They did him dirty, and we knew who it was that did him dirty. And a collective of guys got together and said, "This can't ride." Now, he didn't ask us to do anything. He didn't say, "Hey, defend me," da da da. He didn't even know. But we said we can't let this ride. Injustice has to be dealt with right away, brothers and sisters. Real injustice has to be dealt with right away. You have to nip it in the bud. And I remember going with a bunch of guys. Now, keep in mind, we students. We're not gangbangers. We're not OGs. We just insist that somebody did this to our brother, somebody that we care about. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't advocate any kind of violence. When we showed up, we got our man. And we let it be known that you don't do this. Otherwise, there are ramifications. And the thing that made this thing extremely poignant is that the guy who they violated, he wasn't there. You raised the ire of the community that loved this guy. In the story, you know, of course, we got caught up by the school. There was a little bit of a scandal. They tried to put the lid on it. We went to go see Command Sergeant Major Fisher, who was a black Command Sergeant Major. He said, I got a lot of heat on me, da-da-da. And to our surprise, I thought this call was going to be going to Sister Mary Moss and Brother Clifford Moss. I thought it was going to be suspended for real. He asked me what happened. We told him what happened. He said, I read the report of the student. He said, you know what? I'm proud of you. He said it was a proper response. He said it was a soldier response. And he said, you know, you may go. And this is not glorifying violence, brothers and sisters. This is not that. But it's purposeful. Yeah, you have to be purposeful. And sometimes I feel like our social justice outlays, if you will, the protests and things like that and the speeches, they get redundant. They get extremely redundant. You've got, in some way, you've got to get people's attention. Like my mother said, you got hit in the pocket. You have to cause pain someplace. And the one place I believe you can cause pain is in the economics. Somebody said we're going to have, we're going to strike. Imagine this. Imagine if all the Muslims in the country, half the population of the Muslims in the country, or just the Palestinian Arabs in the country, you didn't go to work for a day or 2 days or 3 days. And you said, I'm not going to do that until there's a truce. I'm here to tell you, people will hear you. But here's the you don't have to tell everybody. Do it amongst yourselves. They'll figure it out. Because until you have a credible threat, you can do all the protesting you want to in the world. I tell you about when I was in college, about these apartheid protests, da-da-da. You know when we got their attention? Was when a group of students did some research about Marquette University's investment policies, and they found out that they were invested in Kimberly Clark, and Kimberly Clark was invested in South Africa, and we demanded that they divest from Kimberly Clark, and Kimberly Clark, they got their attention, but we sent an article stating the fact that the Milwaukee Journal and Milwaukee Sentinel and the bad press led to them. Hey, they were trying to find who in the world wrote that article. But more importantly, everybody knew that this Jesuit institution that preaches love and compassion in Jesus Christ was making money off the backs of our black brothers and sisters over in South Africa. We got my main man Jabril. Why lick my salon off to about the cause? He said protest works, but they are not the end all. They're effective, but you can't stop there. There's several ways for change. This is one of them on the ground. With that said, if folks didn't come out in droves last summer for George Floyd, I bet changes would have been made, and perhaps the call for justice would not have been as strong. I agree, Jabril. But the George Floyd situation was, I think, and I may be wrong. Yeah, I think it was buoyed by the fact that we were all frustrated with COVID, not having connections with one another. We didn't know, and it was anxiety. Um, because you had Ahmaud Arbery before that, and Ahmaud Arbery, they haven't even taken Ahmaud Arbery to court yet. I mean, I don't even know if they have an actual court date, and he was killed before George Floyd. It's the level of rage. There's levels of rage. We know that there's levels of rage. But this one becomes a huge groundswell, largely because of some of the response in the Minneapolis area. In the Minneapolis area, people got together and they were visibly and vocally upset, and that sparked so much other stuff. People weren't passive. People weren't waiting, and this is the thing too. People weren't waiting for the process or the system to play out. People said there's a problem with the system. The system is broken, and you think about some of the responses to this from the system, where they were forcing people into their houses. They were shooting rubber bullets at people. Don't come out. There's a curfew. It was darn near martial law. Darn near martial law. But I believe it works to a degree. But I feel like personally, there's so many protests that they cannibalize they do. I'm sorry, they cannibalize the potential to do greater good. Everybody has a protest. You know what I mean? Everybody has a protest. Like if everybody had a barbecue, um, if they were hungry people and everybody had a barbecue, people would tend to think, well, people are hungry. Look at all these places to get food, right? Look at all these places to get food. But if there's one barbecue and the people who are hungry have to travel miles to get to that barbecue, and when you get to the barbecue, that meat isn't that good. It's not fresh. Secondhand meat. The meat is rotten. The condition, if you will, for lack of a better word, the condition, if you will, it really denotes how you're going to respond to that piece. Like, I don't have a problem with protests. I just said, are they effective in this context? Because sometimes it's pageantry. Let's talk about that in a minute. We got Sister Rabina. Revolution will not be televised. Revolution will not be brought to you. That's right. You got it out. Okay. Palestine is known as electronic intifada. We can now see everything recorded and make it global. Even with George Floyd, when a blatant murder took place in front of witnesses screaming, and yet there were still people not believing. BDS, that's right. Thank you, sister. Boycott, divest, and sanction will never be debated in the U.S. Congress because just today, Biden has just sent $750 million to Israel to drop, I'm thinking, more bombs. I think that's what you said. And there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about that. I tend to follow the money. Let me explain this. I tend to follow the money. Last year, when we started talking about police brutality and things like that, I did make the issue known that we need let's rewrite the damn Constitution, because these are constitutional protections that allow people to act a certain way. Believe me, brothers and sisters, the hold of the grip or the relationship that Israel has with the United States is not constitution. It's not in the Constitution. They're one of the few, if not the only country that can operate outside the stature of the U.S. Constitution and still get what it wants. The U.S. citizens can't get it, but Israel can get it. Why? Why can they get it? And there are a lot of reasons why. I I often say, uh, if you go around the backside of white supremacy, all their butt is out. Now they butt is soft, hard this way, soft that way, and to an extent, I give uh, Israel credit. They hardcore, they go hardcore. But I'm also going to point this out, and I hope it makes sense when I say this. Every story between two people in a conflict, everybody has a narrative. Wait, what I'm just saying. Palestine, Israel, everything that's happened, every story has a narrative. Now, I'm not saying you're right, you're wrong, but every story has a narrative. Even when somebody's dead wrong, they still have a narrative. Think about that. Even when you're dead wrong, you still have a narrative. And people, at some point, have to listen to your narrative. I believe that's what's happened. The shift has been that people listen to negative narrative and take it as justification. Like if you're wrong, you kill somebody. You killed somebody. In the end, I'm humoring you. That's what courts do. I'm humoring you, but in the end, you killed somebody, and the discussion will be about your punishment, your innocence, or your guilt. If you purposely did it, you're guilty. So you can give me everything else out there, but in the end, you meant to do it. That you were deliberate in doing it. But I think that people have gotten to the space where if they pull back and they listen to the narrative like it has balance. I used to say this about court. If you ever lose somebody, or have somebody that's murdered that's close to you, I always get upset with the fact that people go, "Oh, is it first degree murder, second degree murder, third degree?" I'm like, it's murder. It's murder. You meant to do it. Second degree, first degree, second degree, third degree. It doesn't matter to the person who's not coming back. And I think we need to reassess that, because in the United States, you know what? We've been, all of a sudden, we have to listen. We have to humor people who've committed atrocities, people who have killed people. And that's the danger, brothers and sisters, of being in the electronic age. We see everything. And because you see everything, you don't have the imagination and the cognitive surplus in the space to reason what the victim is going through. So now that space, you have to reason what the victim is going through, but you have to reason what the victimized is going through. We are forced to have compassion, brothers and sisters, for the oppressor. And that's what you're looking at right now. I was on my phone, brothers and sisters. I was going to send this out, and I did not send it out. Someone sent me something from Australia. I think he forgot I was Muslim or whatever. It didn't come up. And I received a stream of really anti-Muslim stuff. And the last one I got was, of course, about Israel. What was the name of this joint? Just give me a minute, brothers and sisters, because I'm going to I'm actually give it. I'm not going to show it because I don't know if I have license to show it, but I'm going to give you the name of the group, if you will. 62. Oh, it's from Australia. It starts out by saying the media is lying to you about what's happening in Gaza, right?
The media is lying to you about what's happening in Gaza, so I'm going to give you the full picture. It started in Jerusalem, with Arabs attacking Jews for TikTok fame. At the same time, Arabs began protesting.
Okay. So I'm supposed to believe that this whole thing is about Arabs attacking Jews for TikTok fame. How old is TikTok? In the end, they asked for an appeal. They want money to fight. The Israel Advocacy Movement. The Israel Advocacy Movement. Now, you know what? Here we go again. We make room for the violator. We make room for the oppressor. We make room for the killer to have a platform. To have a platform. In the United States, for whatever reason, we have been more than willing to provide platforms to killers, to people who kill, the people who enslave. That is the nature of the country. This is a history of killers, enslavers, and oppressors who have never gone to jail, and they will never go to jail. You know why? Because they write the rules and the laws to make sure that they don't go to jail. And it's not about white makes right. It's about white privilege allows white privilege. And for anybody, hear me now, that gets close to that white privilege, that can pull up and stand close to it, understand that the closer I stand to it, there's a balance. And that balance allows me to have power too. And if I'm on my game, I can pull that power. If I understand how you got it, and I can look around historically and say how you got it, you didn't really take it, you really didn't fight it. In the United States, brothers and sisters, let's be honest. White privilege has never fought for white privilege. It's legislated for it. It's come up with laws for it. Hence, the removal of critical race theory from libraries and books in American conscience, but it's never had to fight. It's never had to put these up, brothers and sisters. It's never had to duke it out. You know, and only people that duke it out are people think, you know what, the law is going to protect me when I do what I do. So it's never been a fair fight. Not for Latinos, not for blacks, not for Muslims. It's never been a fair fight, brothers and sisters. And they're afraid of the fair fight. You know what COVID did? And I'm not patting COVID on the back like, hey, thank you, COVID. COVID took away that protection. So the black man that lost a job, there's a white man that lost a job too. You dying, we dying. And all of a sudden there's this parity that everybody's uncomfortable with. Anybody here, you don't have to be a sociologist or anthropologist or psychiatrist or anything. You knew that what we saw in the insurrection, you knew it was coming. 2 days before the insurrection, I said, it smells like a coup to me. On this show, I said it in Washington, D.C. at my mother's house, brothers and sisters. I said, it smells like a coup to me. And it happened 2 days later. You know why? Because everything that came down, it was so not based in reality, so disrespectful of logic that people jumped on it and allowed them not to have to think and allowed them to put themselves in that space where somehow I get to be the victim and I get to be an oppressor. It doesn't happen anywhere else. Welcome to America. Let me have a couple more comments and then I'm going to get out of here. What we got, Satana? What's going on, Samir? Sometimes it depends. The intent is good, but know that there's going to be consequences that comes with it. I agree. I asked people and said, believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. That's Marvin Gaye. But in case someone is trying to write someone else's narrative, you know, I think, and this is interesting because I said this, that there was a void in the artistic community. Like there was a void in the artistic community. Like we didn't really step up. And I keep asking why. Why didn't we step up? And I felt like, you know, I didn't think it was going to work. So it was more pageantry for me. Like, man, everybody come out and you know, there's not going to be another Million Man March. There's not going to be another Million Man March. And there's a reason for that. And the same reason there's not going to be another march in Washington because these things were tactically and strategically thought out. And let me add this. They were executed where there wasn't a crisis. It wasn't a reaction to something. They looked for it themselves. The revolution happened in themselves, and they said, let's come all together. We're all evolving and talk about certain things about. I remember that. People got very, very upset about the Million Man March because it wasn't about white people. It was not about white people. You know how people get upset with the Nation of Islam? Because it's not about white people. We look at you, they look at you. We look at you. I'll say that. We look at you, but it's like, I don't want to be that. I want to be this over here. I want to focus on black excellence. You need this argument, so I don't focus on black excellence. The same thing with Muslims. Think about this, brothers and sisters. If somebody does a DNA, Sister Rita, maybe you jump on it. I don't even believe that Muslims came up. I don't believe white people came up with the idea or the word Islamophobia. We did, because that's what reactionary people do. Let's find something catchy. Islamophobia, Islamophobes. I mean, I love CARE. They came up with an Islamophobia gum one time. I was like, it's cute, but really? Let's get back to being revolutionaries. And the script for being revolutionaries is you're willing to do something for what you believe. And what you're willing to do is die. You're willing to die. You're willing to sacrifice. Myself and those boys in high school, my buddies in high school, I'm not going to say we were willing to die, but we were willing to sacrifice. And we knew when we went to deal with this situation regarding our friend Reggie, we knew that there could be consequences when we came back to school. And when we stood there, that was the first time at 15, 16, 17 years old, we stood there as men in front of a man and said, yeah, we did this and this is why. And he looked at us and he said, I understand. So I got to bounce because I got to go get my gown for graduation. We're going to get some for Sunday, brothers and sisters. We're going to get you guys the links. I cordially invite you to my graduation. I will be receiving my master's degree in Islamic education. All of you have been a part of that. I thank you. Much love. Brother Eric, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my friend. Thank you so much for coming. Yusuf, brother, how are you feeling, man? I sent you a thing. You feeling better? Man, keep that cholesterol down, man. You can't keep eating mayonnaise sandwiches. I'm serious, Yusuf, man. I hope you're feeling better. When you're feeling better, give me a call, man. I know we're due for one, but I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm gonna give a shout out to my little brother, JT. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Aki, you still fasting? Are you doing your 6 days? I know I'm messing with you. Man, I just did 30. Holler at me after 7. Give me a call. All right, brothers and sisters, I got to bounce. Like I said, everybody's invited to my graduation on Sunday. I would send you to the one tomorrow, but it's going to be really boring. The other one where your boy gets to talk, bam, you got that. You got that one. All right, brothers and sisters. So look, I got to rock out. Big shout out to everybody. Thank you so much, man. The comment section was bouncing today. I appreciate it. Sister Satana, I appreciate you running it back. I got to get out of here. Sister, I'll call you after I get my board meeting today, if that's cool with you, if you're available. Listen, this is Preacher Moss. This is a shout out show. Let me give a shout out to our sponsors before I go. Number one, our eternal sponsor, BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. If you don't want to go to the website, you simply call 1-800-679-3175. Again, that's 1-800-679-3175. You can talk to the Harriet Tubman of debt removal. That would be Esquire Maxine B. Cade. So listen, check that out. And of course, got to shout out Bayan Islamic Graduate School. They made it happen for me. They can make it happen for you. Go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. All right, brothers and sisters, I got to rock out of here. You've been amazing. Have a beautiful day. And I thank you so much for stimulating conversation. We'll be back tomorrow on the Shout Out Show. I'm Preacher Moss. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Hey, everybody, this is your brother, Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your Shout Out Show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next Shout Out Show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone. You probably wonder what that smell is. That's me. I smell good. And the reason I smell good is because I use oils from Tarif Altar. So I'm not saying you can't smell good. I'm not even saying you stink. I'm saying you have the opportunity to smell exquisite. Check out TarifAltar.com for some of the best oils and scents in town.